So there's this new game that's a Souls-like, but you play as a crab. So it's a little different than other things that you may have played. And although it seems or it looks like this is a children's game because of the design and the graphics, rest assured this is actually a Souls-like game with some difficulty in here. So Souls-like players, you won't be disappointed. That being said, I wouldn't say it's as hard as most traditional, specifically From Software games, which is sort of the standard for Souls-like games. It is difficult, but there are ways for, let me just show you there. For some people who are getting into the Souls games or the Souls-like genre, there's assist mode that there's a bunch of settings that you could turn on that would help make the game easier. Now, a quick overview of the game. Again, it's a Souls-like, you play as a crab, and the whole point of the story, or I guess the whole story plot, is a loan shark comes up to your tide pools. They steal your crab, your shell, and so you're on a journey, a quest in order to go get it back, and you do anything in order to find that shell and get it back. Now obviously there are other characters and other things that happen, boss fights, all of these interactions that happen because you're trying to get your shell back, but for the most part, that's the whole point of the game. Now there are a couple things, a couple standouts, both positive and negative, that I want to talk about here. And the first would be the camera. There are certain sections where the camera gets a lot worse, but one thing that this game does for some reason, there's an auto lock. Let me see if I can get it to do it. So there's an enemy way in the back. It didn't do it. Usually there's an enemy that's like super far and sometimes they're hidden by something and you'll kill something that's right next to you. I was trying to get these two fish together and you'll kill one of them, and instead of it auto locking to the next nearest thing, wherever your camera's pointing and wherever it's centered, it'll auto lock even if it's super far in the distance to that thing. So then if you don't react right away, you'll be focused on this enemy over here instead of trying to fight the one right next to you, and that could lead in some unnecessary damage, which that was always annoying to me in this game. It happened multiple times. But also when you're fighting, the camera angles can get a little weird like that. Like if you're against a wall, it doesn't do the best job in correcting itself, but when there's a problem with the camera, you really feel it, and it made the game a little hard to play. And then the next negative would be overall bugginess of the game, and this includes platforming, combat, general interactions in the world, but sometimes it's a little hard to show because of where we are in the game. But there's a meter under their health, which is that green one, and that's like their stability. And when you fill that up, you can do a charge attack like this in order to break their stance, and it'll knock them over. And bosses share the same thing. And I've had multiple issues during boss fights where I tried to stagger them, but the delay between attacks is so late that even if I start charging, if I attack once and I start charging, instead of it charging after the first initial attack, it will just do another attack and then nothing happens. It won't start another input, or it basically gives me the wrong input, which can be annoying because I have lost boss fights due to the fact that the wrong input was given. Also, another thing, it's hard to show because it happens randomly, but during combat sometimes I would be fighting or I'd go for a swing or something, and then immediately it just sends me up into the air. Like, for reference, if he's 3 feet tall, it would send me like 50 feet into the air and like another 50 feet back for no reason. It just rubber bands me for no reason, and it doesn't make sense because I'm not connected to the internet, and usually that only happens if you are connected to the internet. But I also wanted to show you what I meant about the platforming. Now this is the only area that I can actually distinctly remember a really annoying bug in terms of platforming and just mobility. But throughout the game, certain things would just, you'd step on them, but instead of landing and moving forward, they just slide you off and you fall and take damage for no reason at all, even though you should be standing there. But in this place down here, you come down to this section, you pick up some items down here, and the only way up is to go up this thing. And usually if there's a sort of rope or net in this case that hangs over the top, the character model will kind of climb over to the rest, but he stops here. And then so naturally if he stops there, you're supposed to jump to get to the top, but he just hits his head on the top unless you hit, and then that happens. He hits his head, he falls off to the side because somehow you end up on the back side, and it takes a couple of tries to try and even get up back to the top, and it's really bad. And this isn't the only section that it happens in. And so with a game that has so much platforming and things going on like that, you can't have this happening, because it's just, again, it's relatively minor, but it's frustrating, and at times it makes me not want to play. But in terms of standouts, there are another two, and the first one would be music, but specifically just this song that is playing right now. This song comes up, or it's supposed to come up during mini boss fights. I defeated them all already, so I can't really show you an actual example, but I like the music so much that I use it as the undertrack for this video. I don't know why I like it so much, but that really stood out to me. And then the other thing would be the references and the humor and the comedy style that they use for this game. One, they use visuals, and you know, everything looks childish, cartoony. It's fun. I'm wearing a Mr. Krabs suit. It's literally called Mr. Krill. This guy's name is Krill, and so it's Mr. Krabs. But also they rebrand a lot of stuff. These are Marlboros, however you say them, cigarettes, and they're actually called Mario. And then Uncrustables here, they're called Uncrustworthies. It's grape jelly and mozzarella sandwich. And then two of my favorite ones are here on the back side. You've got Cheesy Guns, toasted snack crackers, sulfur flavored. It's the snack that fires back. This, I don't know why this made me laugh so much when I first saw it. It's just a cheese gun. And then this other one that was pointed out to me. I swear to God, if this isn't butter, I'm seriously gonna lose it. These two, I don't know. They made me laugh a lot, but I like the comedy style, the references. When people talk, they use things like "what the shell" or "shucking" or like "cod damn" or something. And so they use a lot of fish puns, which, you know, I enjoy. I like puns. And some more references are here in the actual shells. There's a F key, you got a sriracha bottle, nozzle, you got the imposter from Among Us, there's a Yakult bottle, there's a legal brick, there's a ham tin instead of spam, and a scrub Aggie instead of scrub daddy. So there's a lot of, oh, and this one too, there's a 64 game. So I like all the references and the puns and stuff that they make. But that's it in terms of standouts. And if I had to rate the game in its current state, because of all the bugs and the weird camera angles and just like annoying things that are present throughout the entire game at all points, I'd give it a 6. It's not a bad game. If in the future there's a patch that addresses the bugs and the camera angles, I could move it up to a 7, 7.5, maybe an 8. But I do think that people who like Souls-like games would enjoy this game. Maybe even in the current state, but if I were to recommend this, I would say wait for a patch. Like, don't rush into this. It's fun, but the frustration probably wasn't worth it. If I knew how buggy it was, I would have just waited. But that's my rating, that's my review. If you want to see more actual gameplay, I did play the entire game on stream, so go ahead and check that out. And if there's anything else you want to see me review, let me know.